Hi, I'm Barbara Lenny, and this is my story about how I stood up to my controlling family and made my own choices. It wasn't easy, but sometimes the hardest decisions give you the most freedom. I'm 25 years old and just a few weeks away from graduating from Las Vegas University with honors. On paper, I seem like the perfect daughter, smart, successful, and well-mannered. My family even calls me the golden child. Sounds great, right? But here's the truth. Trying to be perfect is exhausting. Barbara, stand up straight. A Lenny always stands tall. My grandmother, Jessica, scolds as soon as I step into the family mansion. No matter how quietly I try to sneak in, she always catches me. Sometimes, I think she has eyes in the back of her head. Yes, grandmother, I say, forcing a smile that feels fake. It's not that I don't love my family, I do. But grandmother Jessica is a force of nature. She walks like a queen and speaks like a general. Her words can cut right through a person's confidence. Barbara's posture is fine, mother. She's not going to a fancy ball. My dad, Charles, jokes, trying to lighten the mood. Charles, please, grandmother snaps without hesitation. I am only making sure our family's reputation stays strong. A Lenny never slouches. I glance at my mom, Helen. She gives me a small, reassuring nod, her way of saying, I've got your back. But standing up to grandmother Jessica? That's easier said than done. Later that night, I escape to my room and collapse onto my bed. My phone buzzes, and a smile spreads across my face. It's Paul, my secret boyfriend. You won't believe what my grandmother said today, I text, rolling my eyes. 15 minutes later, he replies, let me guess, something about the Lenny family reputation? I laugh. Bingo. I think she's trademarked that phrase. Paul texts back almost immediately. Well, my grandmother Julie had a few choice words about the Lennys today too. When will this feud ever end? Ah yes, the famous Lenny-Bowen family feud. It's like Romeo and Juliet, except with more designer handbags and fewer love poems. You see, Paul's grandmother, Julie Bowen, has been my grandmother Jessica's rival for as long as anyone can remember. Apparently, it all started decades ago over a silly argument about which family deserved more attention at a charity gala. Sounds ridiculous, right? But here we are, generations later, still stuck in their drama. Barbara, come down for dinner. My mom calls from downstairs. I sigh, quickly deleting my messages with Paul. If grandmother Jessica ever found out I was dating a Bowen, it would be a huge scandal. The dining room is as fancy as always, an old, polished mahogany table, crystal chandeliers that look like they belong in a palace, and the same heavy tension that always fills the air. Did you hear about Julie Bowen's latest charity event? Grandmother Jessica says, her voice full of disapproval, as if throwing money around makes up for her lack of class. Here we go again. My family's drama could be an entire season of a reality show. I eat quietly, letting their voices fade into background noise as I dream about a life far away from all this. For as long as I can remember, my path has been decided for me. I've been told what to wear, how to speak, where to go, and who to be seen with. Being a Lenny means having status, but it also feels like wearing invisible chains. But here's the thing. I'm not just a Lenny. I'm Barbara. I have my own dreams, my own goals, and yes, my own love. Even if my family would never approve. Paul sees me for who I really am, not just for my last name. And that means everything. Over the next few days, I find myself at a crossroads. Graduation is so close. I can almost feel it. Graduation is so close. And with it comes a big decision. Do I follow the path my family expects? A life that looks perfect on the outside but feels like a cage? Or do I step away from it all and find my own way, even if it means letting down the people I love? For the first time, I feel brave enough to ask myself, what does Barbara Lenny want? It's a question that could change everything. This is my story, the story of how I stopped being the golden child and started being me. I bite my tongue, holding back the urge to defend Paul's family. Instead, I focus on my plate, pushing around the untouched kale salad in front of me. Barbara, Grandmother Jessica's sharp voice slices through the silence, her full attention now on me. Have you thought about which law firm you'll be interning at this summer? I spoke to Matthew Perry. He's more than happy to recommend you to his son's firm. My heart pounds, but I take a deep breath and gather every bit of courage I have. Actually, grandmother, I say, my voice shaky but firm, I've been thinking about taking a different path after graduation, maybe exploring nonprofit work. Silence. It feels like I just announced I'm running away to join the circus. Nonprofits? Grandmother's voice is dangerously low, thick with disapproval. Barbara, dear, Lenny's do not do nonprofit work. We lead. We succeed. We dominate. Her words hit me like bricks, meant to crush my confidence. I feel myself start to doubt. But then I think of Paul. I think of the life I want, a life where I choose who I am and what I do. Not one that was decided for me before I was even born. I look up and meet her gaze. I understand, grandmother, I say, my voice surprisingly steady. But I believe there are many ways to lead and succeed. I'd like the chance to find my own path. The room feels smaller, the tension thick enough to choke on. My parents exchange worried glances, caught between wanting to support me and fearing what will happen if they stand up to Grandmother Jessica. But for the first time, I don't back down. That night, I lie in bed, my mind racing. I know I'm caught between the life my family expects and the life I truly want. But for the first time, I feel ready to stand up for myself, no matter what happens. The next day, the restaurant is buzzing with life. The grand hall is filled with laughter and chatter, crystal glasses clinking as Las Vegas's elite gather to celebrate my graduation. Servers weave through the crowd, carrying trays of champagne. And me? I stand in the middle of it all, forcing a smile as yet another one of grandmother's friends congratulates me. Barbara, darling, come here for a moment. Grandmother Jessica calls, her voice effortlessly commanding attention. She waves me over to a group of well-dressed men in perfectly tailored suits. Excuse me, I say politely, stepping away. My heels click against the polished marble floor as I approach. Yes, grandmother? I ask, keeping my face neutral. Gentlemen, she begins, pride dripping from every word as she gestures toward me. This is my granddaughter, Barbara. She just graduated summa cum laude from Las Vegas University. One of the men nods, clearly impressed. Following in your grandmother's footsteps, I see. For a split second, I hesitate. Their expectations feel like a weight pressing down on me. I know what I'm supposed to say, that I'm honored, that I'll carry on the Lenny legacy. But instead, I take a deep breath and finally let the words I've been holding in spill out. Actually, I say, meeting their eyes with as much confidence as I can, I plan to follow my own path. I'm passionate about nonprofit work and making a real difference in people's lives. The air around us grows tense. The men exchange quick, polite smiles, unsure how to respond. Grandmother's face stays calm, but I see the flicker of frustration in her eyes. Well, that's unexpected, one of the men mutters, forcing a polite smile. Barbara has always been ambitious, grandmother says smoothly, her tone controlled but sharp. I know she's holding back. But for the first time, I don't feel small under her gaze. It's just a phase, grandmother says smoothly. It's not a phase, I reply, my voice quiet but firm. She doesn't argue. Instead, she gives me a long, unreadable look before turning back to the men. I know she'll have more to say later, but for now, I've done it. I've spoken up. As I stand there, surrounded by laughter, conversation, and the clinking of glasses, I feel something new, fear and freedom, mixing together like fire and ice. This won't be easy. Disappointing grandmother never is. But for the first time, I know I'm on the right path. My path. And I'm ready to see where it leads. Grandmother Jessica has always been a force of nature, both in our family and in the business world. I smile politely, the well-rehearsed smile of someone who knows their role. But inside, I'm screaming. This isn't me. This isn't what I want. I glance at grandmother's smug face, and something inside me snaps. For years, I let her shape my life, make my choices, and define who I was. Not anymore. Actually, I say, my voice steady even as my hands shake slightly at my sides, I have an announcement to make. The room falls into an uneasy silence. Grandmother's sharp eyes narrow. Barbara, what are you doing? She asks, her voice low and warning. But I'm already stepping away, toward the center of the room. My heels click against the marble floor, the sound loud, powerful. Across the crowd, I meet Paul's eyes. He stands near the far end of the room, his expression a mix of pride and encouragement. He gives me a small nod. And that's all I need. Everyone, I call out, my voice rising above the hum of conversation. May I have your attention, please? Slowly, the room quiets. All eyes turn to me. My heart pounds so hard it might burst, but I take a deep breath and stand tall. Thank you all for coming to celebrate my graduation, I say, forcing a small smile. But tonight, there's something else I'd like to celebrate. From the corner of my eye, I see grandmother pushing through the crowd, her face twisting in confusion, the first crack in her otherwise flawless armor. Then realization dawns. Confusion turns to anger. Because for the first time ever, something big is happening. And she's not the one in control. I'm engaged, I announced, my voice strong and clear. To Adam James. The room went silent. Time itself seemed to stop. No one moved. No one spoke. Then, right on cue, Paul stepped forward from across the room. He moved with confidence, his presence steadying me. As he reached for my hand, his warm smile gave me strength. It's true, he said, his voice calm and sure. He looked at me with such love that my heart felt like it might burst. We're in love. Gasps filled the air. Whispers spread like wildfire. Bowen? As in Julie Bowen's grandson, someone murmured. But the feud, the Lennys and the Bowen hate each other, another voice whispered in shock. I heard it all, but I tuned them out. None of it mattered. My focus was on Paul, on the life we wanted to build together. Then I saw her. Grandmother Jessica. Her face was twisted in a rage I had never seen before. She shoved through the crowd, pushing past people until she stood right in front of me, her eyes blazing with fury. How dare you? She hissed, her voice low and sharp like a blade. How dare you embarrass me like this in front of everyone? Grandmother, I tried to explain, but she didn't let me. Without warning, she slapped me. Hard. The force knocked me backward. Gasps rippled through the room. The world blurred and spun. My knees buckled. Then, darkness. When I woke up, I was on the floor. My head rested in Paul's lap. His face, full of worry, came into focus as the sounds of chaos swirled around me. People were shouting, some rushing out. My parents were trying desperately to calm things down. Barbara, can you hear me? Paul's voice was tight with concern. I blinked. My head throbbed. What happened? I mumbled, trying to sit up. Paul gently held me still. Don't move. Your grandmother, she hit you. You blacked out for a few minutes. We're taking you to the hospital. I nodded weakly, my mind struggling to process what had just happened. Then my father appeared beside me, his face pale with worry. Together, he and Paul helped me to my feet. My cheek burned, and I winced at the pain. But I stood tall. The room was still a mess. Whispers, judgmental glances, and shocked faces everywhere. But as Paul wrapped his arm around me and led me toward the door, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. I knew this moment would change everything, for me, for Paul, and for my family. But for the first time in my life, I was ready. Because this time, I wasn't standing as a Lenny. I wasn't standing as my grandmother's perfect little puppet. I was standing as Barbara. And I would never look back. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my grandmother standing off to the side. Her face was blank, cold, and distant. No anger. No sadness. Just nothing. That silence cut deeper than any words she could have said. Mother, how could you? My father's voice shook with fury as he confronted her. She's your granddaughter. Grandmother Jessica barely reacted. She gave a small, dismissive smile. She made her choice, she said coolly. Then, with a voice sharp as a knife, she added, "She's no granddaughter of mine." Those words hit harder than the slap that had sent me to the ground. As Paul helped me toward the waiting ambulance, a single thought echoed in my mind. Was this the price of standing up for myself? And if it was I ready to pay it? When I woke up, everything felt hazy. The smell of disinfectant filled my nose, and the soft beeping of machines echoed around me. My head throbbed, and for a moment, I didn't remember why I was here. Then, like a flood, it all rushed back. The party. The announcement. Grandmother's rage. "Barbara, you're awake." Paul's voice pulled me from my daze. He sat beside me, dark circles under his eyes, as if he hadn't slept in days. Relief filled his face. "What happened?" I croaked, my throat dry and scratchy. "You've been out for a day," my mom said softly as she stepped into the room. Her face was pale, worry written in every line. "The doctor said you have a mild concussion. You're lucky it wasn't worse." I tried to sit up, wincing at the pounding in my skull. Has grandmother been here?" The silence that followed was my answer. My dad's voice was tight with anger. "She's been busy trying to control the story. It's all over the news," Paul added, his jaw clenched. Then he handed me his phone. I scrolled through the headlines. Las Vegas socialite assaults granddaughter at graduation party. Lenny family feud erupts in violence. Engagement announcement leads to hospital visit. "Oh God," I whispered, my stomach twisting as reality sank in. "That's not all," Paul said, his voice calm but tight with anger. "Your grandmother tried to bribe me to leave you. She offered me a ridiculous amount of money to walk away and disappear from your life." I stared at him, shocked. "She also threatened to cut you off financially if you didn't come to your senses," my mom added bitterly, shaking her head. In that moment, something inside me snapped. For years, I had made excuses for my grandmother's behavior. I told myself this was just her way of showing love, that beneath the coldness, she cared. But now I saw the truth. She wasn't protecting me. She was controlling me. And she cared more about her image than about me. "I'm done," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "I'm done letting her control my life." The next few weeks were some of the hardest of my life. I moved out of the family home, packing my things while ignoring my grandmother's threats and guilt trips. She thought I'd break. She thought I'd come crawling back. But I didn't. Instead, I accepted a job in Memphis, working for a nonprofit organization I had always dreamed about but had been too afraid to consider. The opportunity had been there, waiting. I had just let fear and family expectations hold me back. Not anymore. Starting over wasn't easy, it never is. But as the days passed, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. Paul was with me every step of the way. He helped me find a small apartment, just big enough to feel like home. He was there when the nightmares came, because they did come. Flashes of that night. My grandmother's furious face. The sting of her hand. The cold finality of her words. "Maybe I should see someone," I admitted to Paul one night after waking up drenched in sweat. He sat beside me, his hand gently rubbing my back. I tried to catch my breath. "You should," Paul said gently, his voice full of love and understanding. "There's no shame in getting help, Barbara. What you've been through, it's a lot." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. For so long, I had carried the weight of being a Lenny, of being perfect. But now I was finally ready to let that weight go. In the months that followed, I found myself again. I poured my energy into my new job, helping people in ways that felt real and meaningful. I built a life that was mine, free from expectations, free from judgment. My relationship with my parents started to heal as they began to understand how much I had sacrificed to make them proud. And Paul stood by me through it all. One evening, I stood on the balcony of my little Memphis apartment, looking out at the busy city below. A quiet sense of peace washed over me. I had lost so much, my grandmother's love, the security of my old life. But I had gained something far more valuable. Myself. For the first time ever, I was living on my terms. And I knew, no matter what challenges lay ahead, I was strong enough to face them. "I think that's a great idea," Paul said softly. "I'll go with you if you want." And true to his word, he was there through everything. Every therapy session, every panic attack, every moment when I doubted myself. Even when grandmother Jessica kept trying to tear us apart, going as far as to threaten Paul's family business, he never wavered. Meanwhile, grandmother's perfect world was starting to crack. I heard whispers some of her business partners were distancing themselves. No one wanted to be connected to a woman who had hit her own granddaughter. One evening, Paul handed me his phone. "Did you see this?" he asked. On the screen was a video of grandmother outside her office, surrounded by reporters. "Mrs. Lenny, do you have any comments on the assault allegations?" one reporter asked. "Is it true you tried to bribe your granddaughter's fiancé?" Another pushed. "How do you respond to claims that you're using your influence to hide the story?" Her face was full of anger. Without saying a word, she shoved past the reporters and stormed away. Paul smirked. "Karma's a nightmare," I muttered, feeling both satisfied and a little sad. That part of my life was over. For years passed quickly in Memphis. Paul and I got married in a small, simple ceremony far away from the Las Vegas society pages. It was quiet, beautiful, and exactly what we wanted. We were happy, building a life on our own terms. Then one day, an invitation arrived. A charity gala in Las Vegas. I held the invitation in my hands, hesitating. Paul squeezed my hand, reassuring me, "We can handle it. We're not the same people we were 3 years ago." When we walked into the grand ballroom, I could feel the eyes on us. I could hear the whispers, but I held my head high and kept moving. Then I saw her. Grandmother Jessica. She stood alone by the bar, looking smaller, less powerful, less intimidating than I remembered. Our eyes met, and to my surprise, she walked toward me. "Barbara," she said, her voice softer than I had ever heard it. It didn't have the confidence or authority it once did. "I'm glad you came, grandmother," I replied coolly. She glanced around, almost nervous, as if checking to see who was watching. "I was hoping we could talk," she said. "I want to apologize for what happened. I reacted poorly, and I'm sorry." I froze. An apology? From Jessica Lenny? I never thought I'd hear those words. But when I looked into her eyes, I didn't see regret. I saw desperation. "I appreciate the sentiment," I said calmly, "but I'm afraid it's too little. Too late." Her face fell. "But we're family," she said quickly, almost pleading. "Surely we can move past this." I shook my head. My voice was steady. "Some actions are unforgivable, grandmother. That night, you showed me exactly who you are. And I believe you." Her shoulders slumped. For the first time ever, she looked defeated. As we stood there, I realized just how far she had fallen. Her company had lost major contracts. Former employees had filed lawsuits, accusing her of years of mistreatment. Her social circle, the very people she once ruled over, had abandoned her. Many had even sided with Julie Bowen, her lifelong rival. Jessica Lenny, once untouchable, was now alone. I turned to leave. Paul took my hand, and we walked away together. I felt lighter than I had in years. And in that moment I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad either. I was free. And for me, that was enough. "I've lost everything," grandmother said, her voice shaking slightly. But underneath, I could still hear the anger. "And for what?" she continued. "Because you couldn't just follow the plan I had for you?" There it was. The mask slipped, and the same old Jessica Lenny showed herself again. I met her gaze, my voice calm and steady. "No, grandmother," I said. "You lost everything because of your own actions. Your cruelty, your need to control everyone, your refusal to see people as anything more than pawns in your game." I took a step closer. "Those were your choices. And now, you're facing the consequences." She stared at me, speechless. For once, she had nothing to say. I took a deep breath and continued. "I've moved on," I told her firmly. "I'm happy. I'm successful. and I'm surrounded by people who truly care about me. I met her cold, empty stare one last time. I don't need you, and I don't need your approval anymore. And with that, I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. Jessica Lenny was left standing there alone, a shadow of the powerful woman she once was. A relic of a world that no longer existed. What do you think? Is there a point where family toxicity becomes unforgivable? At what moment in this story would you have walked away from Jessica? Or do you believe everyone deserves another chance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective could help others facing similar situations.